Greetings, Patrick here, 8 Questions With, and welcome to the show. That's right, we're back again, and with 8 Questions With, and today we'll be talking with actress and relationship counselor Ali Iseman. Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting show, that's for sure. Um, me and Ali have been talking for the past year. I first saw her in one of her films. Um, Life on the Rocks, and I was really intrigued by her, so I asked her for an interview. And while I did that, it was just wasn't the right time. It wasn't the right time. Um, but we stayed in touch. We stayed in touch, and we've been talking for the past year or so. And I have been watching her establish her business, Passport to Pleasure, and she has. Uh, I don't want to say reinvent because I don't think that's proper. I think she's super dynamic, super creative, and what she did was she opened her life up to us all. She is a counselor, a relationship counselor. She practiced non-monogamy, and I don't know too much about that. Um, hey, Drew. Hey, Anthony. How are you? I don't know too much about that. I have some thoughts, and we're going to talk with Ali about that. I It's going to be very cool and very different. And I haven't had an interview like this on the show. To be honest with you, I have never had anybody like Ali. So this is going to be an education for me as well, and hopefully for you. And if you have questions about what we're going to be talking about, Ali has two different paths, two different she has different ways for you to get in contact with her if you have any questions. And we have all her social media and her website, her business website, Passport to Pleasure, has both a website and also has a YouTube channel. So you guys can go over there and follow her on YouTube, or you can go ahead and go to the Passport to Pleasure website and ask your questions. Um, um, oh, good, Anthony. Good. I want to thank everybody that came out yesterday to talk or to our talk with Gabrielle Archambault, her second visit, and we had a lot of fun. Well, we both found out that we both adore Haley Bennett, friends for life. Uh, and we just had a great time last night. And of course, that interview is up and running already. You're free to go ahead and take a look at it. It was a lot of fun with one of the more fun person I've interviewed. I really enjoyed talking to Gabrielle, and it was very sweet that her mom came out and supported her in the interview. And thank you again, Mrs. Archambault, for giving your daughter to us, as you stated that yesterday. And we're the better for it, that's for sure. Um, so thank you guys so much. See, how about them Yankees and Rangers, huh? Jeez, the Mets just flushed the toilet already on those dogs. The Yankees looking smooth, but the schedule, man, right out of the gate, sweeping the Astros, the Chitros. Um, Believe me, if I could have any team the Yankees would sweep in 4 games, it would not be Boston. It would be Houston, then Boston, and so yeah, maybe the Phillies. Nah, no, not the Phillies. Um, uh, but I'm looking forward to this season. It's off to a little rough start though. We've had injuries. We had Garrett Cole go down with an elbow injury. We don't know what that's going to be. Hopefully he can come back. But this is always the biggest fear about giving somebody like Garrett Cole $335 million. That right there, an injury. Right. I mean, you just shake your head at these teams that giving these players that kind of money. It's like you guys are stupid. You guys are just absolutely positively stupid. And yeah, there you go. Uh, no, no, I don't think about the Rangers. I'm glad for them. I'm glad they won. They deserve to win. They really did. They came close underneath Ron Washington. They came close, and no, I had no animosity toward the Rangers. I mean, even when the Yankees play them, I just hope they win. But the Astros, yeah, I want to beat those bastards every time. Uh, all right. Let me go over here and tell you what's coming on the calendar. Well, first of all, let me talk a little bit. I want to talk a little bit more about Allie a little bit because, like I said, this is going to be a very interesting show, and it's going to be one that's going to definitely put me through my paces. Um, because a lot of times we talk to folks here, but I have a certain level, self-imposed, by the way, self-imposed level. I only go so far, right? In terms of questioning. I mean, a lot of people might be tempted to go deeper in some of the questions, and I don't want to do that. For a lot of time, for a lot of reasons, this is not my business. I may be talking to somebody, but that as an interviewer, that doesn't give us any reason or cause to go deeper than we should, right? Keep everything, if a guest offers that, if it opens the door to that, and then yes, we'll walk through and we'll ask some deeper questions. I think that's going to happen today. I think we're going to have to ask, because in order for Allie to talk about her business and herself, and so this is going to be a fun interview for me. Like I said, this is educational for me as well. I don't know too much about non-monogamy. Um, that to me, the term non-monogamy means, you're you have a basically an open relationship. Um, you can date whoever you want. Your partner can date whoever they want. Um, but um, that's it to me. It's just it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how that is looked at today. See, I'm older. See, I'm older. The term back then, I mean, non-monogamy, and they use the term here now, is called swinging. Um, you had a different relationship with different people. There's polymorous, if I think I'm pronouncing that right, and that is a threesome that lives together, and most of the time it's a male and two females, um, that I've seen. Now I don't know how that's gonna. I don't know how that's gonna. How that works in today's world. Um, it's gonna be interesting to talk about it because I really am curious. Relationships are have always fascinated me. I've always looked at whether it be the relationships I've been and the choices I've made, um, to other people's. I've experienced people who've lived those lifestyles. One was a very well known actress, and she had a polymorous relationship, uh, and and we talked about that, and we'll talk about that here today. Um, so, like I said, I don't know as much as as I'd like to. So, like I said, talking to Allie is going to be a lot of fun and educational. I think she's a terrific lady myself. I think she really is. I think she's dynamic. I think she's bright. She's vibrant. She's vital. I think she has a great head on her shoulders. Um, and yeah, I mean, if anybody could explain this world to us, it will be Allie Iseman. All right. Let's see. Lisa. Oh, that's not right. That's not right. Yeah, Otani was betting, right? You know that. You know that Otani was betting. He gave up his interpreter in a heartbeat. He gave us his interpreter in a heartbeat. It was Otani. Um, as Jonathan Losaga. Not Lisa. Sheesh. Let's see. Go. Yeah, that's too bad about him. That's a real blow. Him losing him, and we still got other arms on the disabled list too. Um, the injuries to the pitching this year is absolutely crazy. Um, you know what? I'm with the Players Association. I do think it's the clock. I think it's clock related. I do. I think these pitchers are being made to force. They're being forced to throw faster, and their arms are not be given a chance to recover between pitches. Yes, you're throwing your arm. You put it under tremendous stress. um, it's like weightlifting. You lift weights, but you can only do like 20 reps, and then you put it down, and then you walk around and you recover, right? You recover, and before you do it again, you don't just don't do 20 and wait for 5 seconds or 20 seconds and do another 20. You can't. You'll hurt yourself, and I think that's what's going on with the pitchers. Is at the time the clock is hurting their arms. I mean, we're seeing them drop like flies. Uh, Anthony is still stuck in 1995 and 96. Yeah, you've been stuck there for a while, buddy. That's gonna be a great chapter. That's gonna be in a great chapter. Uh, who won the World Series in '96? All right. And while we wait for Allie to come here, let me go ahead and break out the old calendar. Calendar. Okay. So tonight we're talking with Allie in about 5 minutes or so. So I better hurry. Tomorrow night we have actor director Austin Galante will be here with us uh, at 8 o'clock. On Friday night the 12th, we will be welcoming in Joe Lujan at 9 o'clock. We are doing a watch party for with Joe Lujan, and we'll be watching the movie Rust 3. And I don't know who's going to be joining us on that. I know that he mentioned that he's trying to get some confirmation, some cast members. I'm still waiting to see if my co-host can do it as well. But it will be Joe. Will be here on Friday the 12th at 9 o'clock to watch Rust 3. On the 13th, me and the Cheetah are packing up our bag, and we are on the road. That's right, Saturday night at 8 p.m. We are heading over to the Movie Dragon Guys channel, Brian. We will be over there talking about the movies we are anticipating for summer. What summer movies are we looking forward to? And we will be talking with Brian on the 13th, Saturday the 13th. I'm so happy to be on the road and actually head on over to Brian's channel. On the 14th at 4 p.m., we'll be back here on my channel as we start a new series here on my channel called The Wonderful World of Hallmark. And we will be joined by a great panel. We'll be joined by Lady Valerie, Katie from Popping the Popcorn, and Eric from Hey Internet. It's Eric. That's right. That's right. My favorite, everybody's favorite bad shark movie guy. Uh, everybody needs to come by and say Shark Week. Um, well, he's going to be joining us on and rewatch Hallmark films. That's right. Hey, Mike, how are you, sir? Glad you came by. Glad you came by. We're going to be talking to a really dynamic young lady here tonight, in Allie Iseman. Um, I know it's really late over there in the UK, but I definitely think that it will be a very fun watch for replay. Um, yeah, I can't wait. Oh, did you secure your interview yet with Karen? I have totally lost track of that. Did you secure your interview? Hopefully that happened. Um, I know the time difference is a real pain in the ass, but hopefully you guys were able to make it happen. Um, we will, as far as our Hallmark show goes, we will be debuting it on Sunday at 4 p.m. and we'll be watching The Lost Valentine, which stars Jennifer Love Hewitt and Betty White, and that will be on the 14th. On the 16th, we are back. to Eight Questions with, we'll be interviewing publisher Hutch Boyd. Will be here. He is the owner and operator of Black Maverick Publishing. So he is a young man who is both a publishing company and a comic book publishing company as well. He has two different lines. He a comic book and also publishing novels and mainstream books. So he will be here on 8 o'clock next Tuesday, the 16th. On the 17th sees the return of Sledgehammer Horror. That's right. And this time they're together. Ken and Ashley Sledge from Sledgehammer Horror will be our special guest on the 17th of April. And we will be talking all things horror. I think we'll probably also be getting into the horror of 2024. I think it's been an interesting year. And I definitely want to hear their views on it. And we're going to have a fun chat with those two of the nicest people. There probably will be some football talk there, as me and Ken and our good friend John Grande are. I send those guys a lot of football stuff. We enjoy talking behind the scenes. We're like, will this ruin our horror fanboyhood? If people know we're back there behind the scenes talking football? No, we love football. And then Thursday the 18th, well, we had to reschedule our original guest. She had an event she needed to go to, but we will be welcoming back actress and model Chanel Ryan on the 18th. She will be here on the 18th, and I'm looking forward to talking to Chanel. She's a very lovely lady, and I really enjoy talking to her quite a bit. Let's see. Make sure okay. All right. That will be on April 18th. On Saturday, April 20th, we are back again for another matinee show, and this time I'll be joined by the Friendly Men. The Friendly Men will be joining us on the 20th, and we will be talking to Canadian rock trio Jada Truth. I'll be joined by at least two of the Friendly Men, maybe three. I know for sure two. I know that James and Jonas will be joining us for the 20th on the 20th. New guy, new possible new member of the Friendly Men. Well, I've been pushing it anyway. Joe from Concrete Spew might be joining us as well. Yeah. Okay, and then the 21st sees me and the Cheetah welcome in Brian from the movie Dragon Guy. He will be here on Sunday night for a special edition, Eight Questions with Sunday night edition. We will be on at 8 o'clock, our normal time, and we will be talking to Brian about his channel and about horror in general, movies in general, what's coming up, how to get his start, how to get his YouTube going. I'm looking forward to this. He just recently has just come back from a 6 month hiatus, and he is hitting the ground hard, running. And we'll be talking with Brian on the 21st. On the 22nd, at 2 p.m. 2 p.m. We're having another matinee show on a Monday, and we will be welcoming our good friend Anthony Chabot. Will be returning to Eight Questions with. That's right, 2 p.m. Me and Anthony will be talking to baseball. We're talking baseball. We're going to be talking movies. We're talking about his bio that he just mentioned that he's writing. So Anthony will be here on the 22nd, and we'll be chatting with a very fun and very friends with everybody. Anthony knows and is friends with just about everybody. So he will be here on the 22nd. And then on the 23rd, we have a doubleheader. I told you April was going to be busy. I told you April is going to be absolutely insane for us. We have a double header. We are heading over to the pond to meet actress Tiffany Ellen. Let me get this right. Tiffany Ellen Robinson. That will be at 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock. Cannot wait for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. She's appeared in a couple of movies I've seen, and we'll be talking to her about it. And we will come back to our regular time and talk with Kenny Sparks. Ugh. And he will be here at 8 o'clock. My handwriting is like a doctor's. I could be a doctor with my handwriting. I'm telling you. I don't know how I keep it straight. 24th, we'll see another band come pay a visit, and we'll also be joined again, once again, by a friendly man as we interview the band Sex Dream, featuring Maria Surfing Bird, and our special co-host will be Ant Review Things from the Friendly Men. He will be here for that, and then the 25th sees the return of Spooky Kisses. Oh my gosh, that's just crazy. All right, let me go see where my guest is at. Uh, okay. Oh, there she is. Ta-da!
Hi, there we go.
Hi.
Of the
Hey.
trouble.
Oh my gosh. I was gonna say, yeah, she'll just MacGyver that. She's got skills.
Appreciate the faith.
Um, wow, the journey to this interview has been it's so interesting to me. I was thinking about this as I was promoting it today. It's such an interesting journey. Um, I explained that you and I have been talking for a year.
Is it probably about a year? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
You reached out to me on Instagram.
I saw you in Love on the Rocks. Absolutely, just got like, who is that, and how can I talk to her? Which was
So
a
you
really
the whole podcast.
that was I love the movie. I love the
Oh,
movie. I loved your performance, and I said I got to go talk to her.
thank
Um,
you.
it was but of course there are some things going on. Um, we couldn't make it happen then, but I knew that's happened before. And most of the time, like something has happened, and whether someone's going on a shoot, someone's going on vacation, whatever, it happens. So we stay in touch, and in back of my head, I'm going like, I'm gonna talk to her sooner than later. Sooner or later, it's gonna be the perfect time. But during that time, I find out that you are launching your business.
Speaking of
Uh,
things happening.
yeah, yeah. I think that it was probably you. How long did it take you to get the business up and running? I mean, when did you start the planning the business, and when did you actually go live with it?
Well, the work that I do, I've been doing for quite some time. The launch of the actual formal business to bring it to a wider audience, Passport to Pleasure. Passport to Pleasure launched in January, and I started building all of it as far as website, all the paperwork, and shooting the content, and courses and things like that. When I left my last position, so that was May, probably the second half of what year is it? The second half of 2023. I was really just nose to the under, one woman band on this right now. So really, everything that you see that has to do with Passport to Pleasure, I created. So it took a lot of focus, energy, and time. I'm grateful I was able to actually really put my focus and attention on that. I was still doing some other consulting work for the first few months, but I would say I was able to dedicate a solid through 4 months to really just do all of this, get it all together, get it up and running, and then launch in January. And it's a process. Like I'm an entrepreneur. It's a new company. There are things changing, growing, learning how to tweak certain things so it suits my audience's needs better. It's a process. It's not this like a fixed date, like you press a button. It's
Oh
launched
no,
now.
no, this is like a major life changing. This is a life changing process that you're you're when people come talk to you, it's not just, like, we're gonna go talk to Allie for an hour. It's a life-changing process, and they need that guidance, they need that help. Um,
Mhm.
I haven't seen anybody do what you've done. I haven't seen that, and I got an advantage on you here is that I'm older. Back I was a '70s kid. I was born in the '60s, but I was in the '70s and early '80s. So some of what I see, some of what you're doing, I've seen, but
Oh
not
yeah.
like not like you presented it though. Um, I think it's really daring. I think what you're doing is really daring.
I,
And yeah. So it took you the better half of 2023 to launch it. But how how did you come to the point where this is what you wanted to do with Passport to Pleasure, and helping couples and in relationships? Was this something that had happened to you? Is this something you were curious about? Um, explain to us if you can. I mean, explain to us if you can. How you got motivated to start the business.
Sure. So, for some context, what I do is I work primarily with couples who are interested in opening up a relationship into an expansive relationship dynamic. And terms that you'll hear are non-monogamy or alternative relationship dynamics. What I do is I help people understand it's not this monogamy or non-monogamy. It's a relationship dynamic conversation. All of the tools and skills that you learn to potentially open up your relationship are just as applicable, necessary, and needed to have a healthy and strong monogamous relationship. So I help people build better relationships that are more mutually fulfilling, that last. That's my whole mission. The daring part, as you so sweetly put it, is that we live in a I'll use the term sex negative world, right? Where there's a lot of shame around expressing our sexual or romantic needs outside of the very narrow, what we're told is the norm. So
Right.
that is what creates it in a daring context. For me, it's been my personal life. I've been a speaker, educator, and practitioner of non-monogamy myself since 2016. I've been doing this work, as I mentioned, for quite a few years now as a leader and a speaker in this community already. I've been doing it, through referral only, basically, for the community. And I love it. I love working with couples, helping them understand where a lot of them will be at this point where they think their only option is divorce. Something's not working, whatever it is. So we love each other and we're each other's person, but just, we're so frustrated or we're so whatever the issue is, then we must have to get a divorce, right? Wrong. I help people understand and learn how to investigate those other options and how to create their relationship in an expansive way so that they're able to really live that relationship in the most fulfilling way possible for both of them. So launching Passport to Pleasure in January is my way of bringing the tools and skills and knowledge that I have been doing for years and offering to couples to a wider audience and making it available online through courses, through working with me, through what I call the Invested Relationship Blueprint. That's my coaching framework. So it just enables me to offer what I've already been doing in a larger scale, basically.
It's interesting about the divorce, and to me, what's really always perplexed me about that, and also relationships, is you see so many people in relationships and in a marriage too. They really don't know how to necessarily let go, right? So it always seems to be pretty destructive in a lot of ways. Divorce too. To me, it's like the main goal of your divorce should try to be stay friends. Stay friends. I mean, obviously, you guys were attracted at one point to each other. You had a relationship. You even got married. But at the end of it, I mean, if you possibly can, stay friends. Why do you think couples have such a hard time with that? I mean, you would think, you don't want, obviously, you don't want a divorce. But why do couples have a hard time when they break up, knowing that there's millions of people out there in the ocean? It's like, yes, it hurts for a while. It's like ripping off a band-aid, it stings like a mofo, but it's not the end of it. It's not the end of it. It's not the end of you. It's not the end of her or him. Why do you think couples have a hard time uh, dealing with that? And when you do talk to couples on the verge of divorce, how do you diffuse any sort of tension they have between each other?
Well, and I want to offer too that it's often always, but often not even necessary to take that step, because it really depends on where it's coming from. Um, sometimes a relationship does. Sometimes the shift in a relationship is an end. Sometimes the shift is an expansion. And I think where we get into is we have a very binary way of approaching relationship in our culture and approaching really all things, right? Black, white, gay, straight, monogamous, non-monogamous. It's either or, good, evil, right, wrong, all that. And so we do relationships the same way. Versus me. So if everything is you and me, you versus me, if something's hurting, you're doing it to me. So I'm going to get angry at you doing that thing. When the reality, when you're in a couple, you're actually in a threesome already. This is what I love. This is what usually shifts it immediately. A lot of the couples I work with. There's you, there's your partner, and there's the relationship. And I mean that literally. There are three separate entities involved in this dynamic that deserve just as much attention and effort as the other. So I offer a free tool called the Relationship Ratio, which is a very distilled version, but it is a workbook that helps couples understand that three-way reciprocity, in a sense, to really open up the conversation. It's not just you versus me or me versus you. It's how are we caring for this relationship? How is each of us caring for each other and the relationship? How is the relationship feeding us? Is the relationship supporting us and our needs? And that takes us immediately out of this me versus you mentality, where we can diffuse that defensive mechanism that comes up when you're feeling attacked, and we can really look at all the different pieces of this relationship and what's working and what's not, because often there's actually more working than they realize. But when you're in defense mode, all you can focus on is what's not, and stopping the hemorrhaging and stopping the pain. And once we get out of that, then we can actually start doing the work.
So do couples, I mean, do they, and you're right. I mean, I'm saying like half the people or that are divorced, if they could stay friends. There's some couples that yeah, obviously there might be some physicalness and abuse in the relationship. There might be an addiction in the relationship. Some just it's not worth saving per se, and because one of the persons is, I mean, a fourth dynamic, right? It would be, whatever's holding one person back from committing themselves all the way to the marriage per se, or the relationship. That is a really interesting way of putting it. I never really thought about that. That you're right. It is already it already is three-way. Um,
Mm.
Between you, the person you're with, and the relationship. I've never heard it explained that way, but it makes perfect sense. Um,
A lot of defensiveness can come from is people feel attacked, they're taking it personally. If the relationship, isn't working for whatever reason, it's, quote, failing, and therefore they're a failure because they are the relationship. No, there's the relationship, and then there's you, and then there's your partner. And addressing those individually and, collectively, and how they impact each other is a huge shift, and can often be the door that opens up a new pathway forward.
now, like I said, I came from I'm a kid of the '70s, so, and I grew up in the '80s and whatnot. I saw some of the lifestyles when I was in the music business. I saw some of the lifestyles. There's a very well known actress that I know, and she had a family like that. She had a polyamorous family, I think it's called, the three, the
Uh,
two,
Turns, depending on their dynamic, triad or yeah, it
right.
depends on structure, but yeah, like
Um,
polyamorous.
Now I've experienced that. I've talked to people with that, and how do when couples come in and they're curious about that, like they come in and go like, will that work for us? would that something like that work for us? Should we investigate that? Should we take a first step to that? Is it more of a curiosity thing when they come see you, or is it just are they looking for a life raft? Are they looking for something to hang on to for their relationship?
I get both. And the distinction is important to make, that if they're coming to me as a, we've got to do this, it's a band-aid, we're falling apart unless we can't start opening it from that place, because that means that opening is for an escape route, or, an avoidance of what's really going on. Now, when you're coming from a place of curiosity, that's an additive exploration. We're looking to add into what we've already got going on. Now, you can be in a stable foundation and know, hey, we've been married now for 20 years and we've changed and we've grown because, hey, we're supposed to. We're not
Right.
supposed to stay the same our whole lives.
No.
So maybe we started out and we were, sexually compatible, but now my libido is way lower and my partner's is way higher, or they're interested in certain things that I just do not want to do. Let me alleviate the pressure from myself and explore a way to intentionally open this relationship so that I can be a part of my partner being able to satisfy what they're curious to in that relationship. Because I'm still a part of that relationship. Just because I'm not, maybe a physical part of that experience, I'm still a part of creating that relationship structure with my partner, within which we can each have what we need. I don't have to feel pressured to, do things that I'm not interested in. I don't have to feel like I'm not enough or I'm lacking anything, because I'm participating in my partner being able to explore something new as well. We're not all the same. We are going to have mismatched kinds of needs periodically throughout our life. Like, one of the things I work on with couples who come to me is understanding their hierarchy of exclusivity. We all have different, different range of our physical and sexual needs, and our emotional and romantic needs, and how exclusive those needs are with, how exclusive we need to be in meeting those needs with one partner or multiple. So understanding where we fall on those two planes and where our partner falls helps us understand where we're compatible and where we're not, and what relationship dynamics can serve us in being able to create an expansive relationship that can last, because we're both being met where we are. Does that make sense?
It does. Well, let me ask you an obvious question. I'm sure you get this a lot, and that is, isn't it a landmine though? I mean, isn't it a landmine? I mean, you go ahead on paper, it sounds really exciting. You know, I knew a lady who her and her husband were into the swinging community, and when I met her, she told me that's what they did. They used to go to swinging parties. But what happened was the husband broke the rule that you couldn't see the other person. You couldn't date outside the marriage. You couldn't see the person who you swung with at a party. You couldn't see them outside the marriage. And he did, and it caused their relationship to disintegrate. And he crashed and burned in a really bad way. Um, i- is that a concern? Is that a concern though? Like you bring in, or you do bring in a third party, a third, and maybe those two fall in love with each other passionately, and all of a sudden they realize that maybe we just want to be us two, and it's the third person who initially had the person come in is now left on the outside looking in. That's got to happen a little bit. And how do you deal with how do you deal with that if it does blow up that way?
There's a lot of different components just brought into that one thing. So I'm going to try and break it down into each individual element. I think the most important thing is to acknowledge that the relationship did not, as you said, disintegrate because they were swinging. There
No.
was an agreement made, and that agreement was not honored. So whether your agreement is exclusivity, or your agreement is we can have sex with other people but we can't date them, or the agreement, whatever the agreement is, not honoring an agreement that you've made with your partner is destructive, period, whatever your relationship dynamic is. So non-monogamous, monogamous, whatever relationship dynamic, if you're not communicating effectively, if you're not in integrity, if you're not cultivating your skill set to be, um, if you don't have a healthy relationship, it doesn't matter what dynamic you're in, it's a landmine. Whether, acknowledging, there's plenty of infidelity in monogamy.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with sleeping with other people. It's about lying and deceiving your partner. That can happen in any relationship dynamic. What we see in non-monogamous dynamics is that it takes the stranglehold off of you have to be this one way, and there's more freedom, and you build skills like, I love to say, jealousy is my best friend. It's not about avoiding jealousy or making someone wrong for triggering jealousy in me. Jealousy is letting me know there's something to look at. I'm either having an insecurity of myself, I am, having some fear of abandonment, there's an insecurity in the relationship, there's something that needs to be looked at. And if I run away from it by, making my partner wrong and punishing them or pulling away myself or whatever it is, I'm not actually doing the work of relationship. I'm pulling myself out of it. I'm pushing my partner out of it. Leaning in those moments is how we grow and we strengthen our relationship. Yes, there's a risk. There's always a risk in life. In consensual non-monogamy, consent is the key word here. We are agreeing on what we're going to try. We're agreeing on our level of risk, on, you know, how open we want to be, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're mutually creating this, and it's going to grow and change over time. You can have healthy or unhealthy non-monogamy and healthy or unhealthy monogamy. It is
Yeah.
not exclusive to the relationship dynamic.
It's sort of weird. It's like, the monogamy, and then they went out and they, they went out to the parties, then became non-monogamy. And it's just like, but the wild card in the whole thing you explained, the wild card is the heart does what the heart wants. You could lay it out, the foundation to how it should run. This is what you get from this relationship. This is what you get from this, from non-monogamy or monogamy, or or any combination. But the fact of the matter is, the wild card is love. Now, like, I'm sure there's many couples when they go into this, they're not expecting, they go in with loving their person they're with, and then they meet the other person, they start the relationship, and then it shifts, the dynamic shifts, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, I'm starting to love her or him a lot more than I love my original partner. How, to me, it's like, how do you keep it in balance? That, I mean, as long as you can keep it balanced, you have a fighting chance, right? It can, the relationship can work,
Yeah,
it can be
I'll
strong.
be clear, in monogamy or in non-monogamy, the how am I saying this? It's important to understand that loving someone else does not inherently mean you have less love to give your partner or something like that. That's not a finite resource. And love is action. Love is repeated action over time. Lust, chemical reactions, etc. Those are those momentary, etc. Relationships are what we build with people that we give a shit about. So if you give a shit about somebody, then you better actually do the work it requires to create an agreement structure around it. We have a very, I'm trying to think of the most diplomatic way to say it. We have a very lazy society when it comes to relationship, because we said, hey, this is the one way to do it. So you date like this, you get engaged like this, you move in together like this, you get married like this, then you have the kids like that, and it's just, this is it, and that's the prescription. It's a very prescriptive model for relationships. So I don't have to do any work. It's all laid out there for me. I don't have to look at myself. I don't have to explore what my needs are or get curious about my partner, because I'm going to make a bunch of assumptions because we have the whole plan laid out for us. It's extremely lazy. So if you actually want to have relationship, again, in any relationship dynamic, this includes people who choose to be or are innately monogamous. It's work. It takes
Yeah.
effort.
Well, let me go. I was thinking about this. I've been thinking about this ever since you agreed to do the show, and I look at it like, I think the American, how we do things, how we look at it, how we approach sex, and how we approach relationships. I think it completely got changed and it comes down to one event, and that was the HIV. Everything, I mean, before HIV, the lifestyle was open. I mean, people, I mean, this was nothing new. I mean, open relationships were nothing new. Non-monogamy was nothing new. I mean, it was vibrant. But once HIV, the AIDS crisis hit, our whole lifestyle it flipped. It went from up to down. It's like no longer couples were being so open. They weren't being so, like they wouldn't be able to open their mind to possibilities. Um, and I think that, all of a sudden our viewpoint of what sex is, it just has slowly narrowed like this, even to now, where now we see women's rights are now being assaulted. But it's been a narrowing of the viewpoint of relationships and sex ever since HIV. Do you agree with that assumption, or am I off base with it?
I mean, I can definitely see that. I can see that relatedness. I would say ignorance begets fear, stoked by the fear mongering that media has become, makes that fear debilitating, and people retract in fear. And we're beyond ignorance now. We're in an age of misinformation. So ignorance is one thing. We didn't know, in the way that, there's still a lot of fear around COVID because we don't know. It's very new. That's not the case with HIV, for example, anymore. There are a lot of preventative measures. It's, very safe to have multiple partners. Excuse me. It is safer to have multiple partners. There is not, and there has never been, a thing that is called safe sex. That's not real. There is no such thing. There is safer sex, but any sex has a risk. Any relationship has a risk. This is the nature of life. So the illusion that there is, again, even the language around it, right? Like clean is terrible terminology. Oh, I'm clean. I didn't test positive for anything. It's disgusting. It's a horrible, horrible, really ignorant thing for, something that is very natural and normal. You can test positive for a number of STIs, get treated, your life proceeds. Even things that aren't treatable, that you live with, for your whole life as a carrier, don't have to actually particularly impact anything when you actually know what you're dealing with. There is a lot of effort put into the ignorance that keeps people abstinent and in fear. And it's a shame, because with knowledge comes power. And with that, you're able to really live into what you need and what serves you in your life.
I mean, you would think that we'd be opening up back again after that. Like, you're right. I mean, there's a lot of ways.
Sorry, I wish it was near like that. I wish it was like, oh, we were afraid of this and we figured it out. Now we'll like go back. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Society builds on itself, and we've created a culture of such fear, and then amplified that now with so much polarity. Again, you versus me, us versus them, good versus evil. Again, that is so much easier to point over there than to be with the discomfort of, I don't know. Okay, let me see what
it's not just the one person pointing, it's the whole society's pointing. And it's like, you don't need to do that. If you're careful, and if you're careful and you're I think people might get the wrong impression that it's a free for all, and it's not. You still got to, like you say, you still got to do the work. You still got to go out there, and you still got to meet person. You still got to talk to them. You still got to know who they are. I mean, it's no different than what you did before that. And I don't understand why our society allowed itself to, other than what you said, by fear. I mean, it before it was accepted. Now it's not. Or it's very, very, very slowly coming back. Even with social media, the term one night stand is not looked upon, from at least in my circle anyway. It's not looked upon as something that happens a lot. It doesn't happen a lot. People don't talk about, yeah, I'm gonna hook up. I don't really see that. I don't hear that talk nearly like I did when I was back when I was growing up.
Very sex negative culture. People are so afraid to be authentic about their needs in this area. Understandably, you step out of line and there's out for people to tear you down. Um, with education, with information comes power. Again, fearful people are very easy to control and dictate. When you educate yourself, when you learn about what's really going on, including who you are and what you need, there's a level of empowerment that is life changing. So the work that I do with couples and individuals, yes, it's about, relationship and how they're relating to themselves and each other, but it changes their whole life. This is the roots of how we got here. Our society likes to say, like, there's life over here and then there's sex and it's bad and it's separate. It's over here. Life is sex, is life, is relationship, is love. It's all one thing. It comes from that. It all comes from how we connect. So when we shift how we're connecting, we shift our relationship to that part of ourselves and each other, our entire life shifts. Our entire life opens up in a new way.
Now, you
And
yourself,
by others.
now you were, and my respect, massive respect for this. You were very open about when you formed the, when you woke up, so to speak. You said you were in relationships, and after one relationship, you were doing self-examination, like, okay, why is this happening to me? Why is this, why am I only going so far in a relationship, and why is this happening to me? So what was that? What was that like to look and to sit there and realize that maybe there's something else that I'm not doing to make me a happier person, in relationships? What was your call? What was your, I guess, wake up call to that? I mean, how did you decide that this is something you yourself would apply to your own personal life? And I'm sorry, that seems like a personal question, but I think it helps to establish what you're trying to do. If you don't mind me asking the question.
Journey is a huge part of, like I said, it changes your whole life. I never thought I would be sitting here doing this. I thought this was my personal life. But it's been since 2016, over 8 years now, and it's very clear that it's a huge part of what I want to contribute to the world and what I can contribute to the world. So to your question, what was it like? Deeply uncomfortable, like really hard for a lot of it. If you're not uncomfortable on a pretty regular basis, you're not growing. And that present comfort is coming at the cost of your future stability and your future happiness. Slight discomfort is great. We have conflated being uncomfortable and being unsafe in our society, and they are not the same thing. So to answer your question, my journey was, I was a serial monogamist for a long, long, long time. I started young, never really went through the cooties phase, kind of always was dating, or whatever you want to call it when you're that young. But I was always interested in connection and relationship. And I wasn't sexually active until college, actually. But, always had a boyfriend or whatever, some version or another. And that, lasted through my mid 20s. And I noticed a pattern that I was always in these relationships, and I was only dating men at the time. I was always in these relationships for about the same amount of time. And then I would be single about the same amount of time before getting into the next one. That would last about the same amount of time. Like, oh, this is a pattern. This is interesting. And they're not going out. So if it's a pattern of things that aren't working. So like, what are the elements that like I can look at here? Okay, well, if I'm always single for the same amount of time in between, well, I wonder what's on the other side of me being single for longer than that. Let's mix up one variable. I'm very nerdy. I'm like a nerdy little relationship scientist. So I'm like, let's change one variable. So I was like, let me be single for longer than that amount of time. And the answer to what is on the other side of that is all of the shit. I got to start my personal development journey of, oh, how have I been contributing to these relationships that aren't, that they're not working, with these relationships with people that aren't compatible? How am I showing up in a way that is not creating more harmonious relationships, et cetera, et cetera?
Was that a hard thing to do? Was that a hard thing to do?
Very uncomfortable. I Yeah, that's the shortest way to summarize it. Very uncomfortable, very fucking worth it. Very fucking worth it. Highly recommend. Being good at being uncomfortable is probably one of the most valuable skill sets you can ever develop in
Mhm.
yourself. It puts you light years ahead of the pack.
I
Most
agree.
people will do just about anything to be comfortable. And that's why we're at where we're at in society in a lot of ways. So that took me to the next phase. And I was still, I was still monogamous at this time. But I knew there was something different about me because of how I experienced what I thought was jealousy. I It wasn't negative for me. It didn't feel bad. I got excited hearing about my partners, their partner, like previous experiences, previous partners, their fantasies, etc. I loved the idea of them, having or like bringing someone else in or going off and having an experience and then coming back and telling me about it. I didn't know the word compersion back then. Compersion is commonly referred to as like the opposite of jealousy. It's when you experience joy or pleasure from watching or hearing about your partner experience joy or pleasure with someone else. So I thought that was jealousy because I'm like, that's what people feel when they hear about their partners, with other people. But I don't understand. This is really yummy. Like, why do people hate it? So I broached the topic with a couple of my boyfriends in a row, and we settled on, okay, yes, we can have a threesome with another woman. That's how we'll try this.
Now, is
Never
that the guy?
happened.
Was that the guy speaking, or was that you speaking?
Which I was like, sure, great, that sounds awesome. Let's start there. Um,
I just want to know what he would have said if he would have said, "I got another guy." You
well,
know,
I love bi men. I find that very attractive, personally. But I mean, that's not generally the norm. It is a socially accepted thing to have a threesome with one guy and two women. Um, so that is often the comfort zone, and didn't unfortunately did not manifest in those relationships. And then I was in what ended up becoming my last monogamous relationship, and this was a person who was traveled a lot for work, and I would join him when I could, but I wasn't always able to be there. And so on one of we had talked about this, and came to an understanding of like we want to open up. We want to, have some experience, see what's possible. And so I told him on one of the trips, that I wasn't able to join him. I said, I'd really love for you to connect with somebody, take a photo. That's very exciting to me. And then have a wonderful night and tell me everything. Like, I want to hear, with their consent, let me know. Of course, I had like none of the tools, language, anything that I have now. I wish I launched Passport to Pleasure because I wish that I existed back when I started in 2016. I had no support. I was flying blind. And yeah, so he on this trip he met someone, sent me a picture. She was super cute. I was really excited. And if I remember correctly, they ended up just staying up all night talking, which is adorable. I love that. It was sweet. I would have
yeah.
loved a little more, but it's fine. It was great. Good start. So another trip, I was not able to join him on. I was back home still in LA, and a friend of mine was coming into town. And we had been friends for years at this point. And a few years back, had sex with each other a handful of times, and we're very much just friends. We were both single, and it was fun. We respect each other. We had great communication about it. And so for me, I was like, this is a safe person. This is somebody, there's like no risk of anything beyond it growing. We've already explored that. That's not what this is. But we enjoy having sex together, like a great, safe opportunity. And so I brought it to my partner. He gave me what he called his green light. My partner gave me his green light. Friends, and I had a wonderful night. We ended up talking a bunch. I learned that his previous relationship had been open, which I didn't even know about. So it was this lovely learning experience in a lot of ways as well. And I cracked open in a way that I was not expecting. I thought that I loved my partner as much as I possibly could. This brought it to a whole new level that it felt like my heart exploded out into the universe. I could not wait to call him. I felt so connected to him. This experience very much poured into our relationship for me. I felt like so much trust, so connection, so just it was delicious. So I called him like we agreed right after I left, and I was just telling him how much I loved him. I can't wait to tell him, like, what does he want to hear? Like, I'm so excited. I'm so happy to be on this journey. And it was just dead silence for a second. I thought like we disconnected. And then all he said was, I can't believe you did it. And
Okay,
it was
yeah, yeah.
awful.
Now he said he couldn't believe that you did it, right? But he
I went
wasn't happy. But he wasn't happy.
sorry?
Was he happy or not happy? I didn't hear the end of that.
No, I
Was
was
he
very upset that I actually went through with the thing that we agreed that I could do.
so
Because
you
he
learned
did
a lesson about men, didn't you?
well, not men,
Men cannot handle that as well as women. I'm telling you
that's
that. No,
that's a generalization, that's not correct. So, you
I,
don't
I,
have certain skills regardless of your gender. Yeah, you can be much more reactive. Like I said, I didn't have the skills, the language, etc., that I have now, and I don't know if he was, testing me or whatever, or if he genuinely thought that he would be okay with it and then realized after that he wasn't. Either way, it would have been really wonderful to be able to lean into that with him and be like, ooh, the way we did this didn't work. Let's look at that. Because I was in the relationship with him. This was an opportunity, this was an experience for our relationship. Um, and we tried to we didn't have the skill set. It was a very painful breakup, and for me, it was very important that I then proceed on my own solo to start exploring because I didn't want to, unintentionally, inadvertently hurt anyone else that I cared about while I was figuring what this was.
that is the tough part about a relationship like that, is that somebody somewhere down the line is going to get hurt.
It's like I said earlier, any relationship has the only way to build trust is by understanding that you are giving someone the ability to hurt you. That's the only way you can trust someone. You don't trust someone by keeping them in a cage and not allowing them to do it. That's not trust. Trusting them is saying, okay, whatever my assignment is, you have passed. I am going to allow you the opportunity to potentially hurt me in the future. And by you not doing so repeatedly over time, that is the process of building trust. But we haven't cultivated the ability culturally, societally, to be in the discomfort of that reality. We think we have confused relationship. We've confused ownership for partnership.
Yeah,
I would so much rather know that my partner is choosing to be with me actively every day than is with me out of an obligation. Because either one means they can leave at any time. Like, I would rather the authenticity and the ability to have the conversations of like, hey, I'm noticing a shift in our relationship. I'm feeling distant from you. Like, I really want to look at that. Is this instead of not ever talking about any of these things? Partnership is working through it together. We
yeah.
could have addressed that rupture together in partnership. We didn't. That's not what ended up happening, unfortunately. Um, but it helped me understand that I need to do this, at least at that time myself. I needed to explore it solo because I didn't want to hurt anybody else in that process. That was not why I started.
I definitely will say this. I'll definitely say you were in a better position than he was in handling it. I mean, I just, I just, I had a friend of mine, a good friend, and he worked with me at a nightclub, and he had a girlfriend, a very pretty girlfriend, and and she loved him, and but he was out and about on the hunt every Friday and Saturday, and we, as all of us male guys, were just sitting there going like, why are you trying to hit up on every single girl that you're seeing? You got a really beautiful girl right there. Why are you doing this? Um, well, eventually she got tired of it and she broke up with him. But she knew had a lot of friends at the club that we worked at, so she came over with her new boyfriend. My friend went to the ceiling. He could. What's she going out there doing with another guy? What's this all about? Who is this guy? When did this start happening? And I can tell you, as a whole, maybe it wasn't the right thing to do, but we did it anyway. We laughed at him. We laughed at him because it's like, dude, this you brought this upon yourself. Your behavior, and you didn't respect the relationship that you're in. If you wanted to see other people, communicate that. Maybe she because maybe she's down with that. And like you said, I mean, some people are okay with that. I mean, I know people who date like that. They don't commit to any one relationship. I think the honesty is healthy. I mean, you're honest with with your friend, and you're saying, "Hey, we did it." I don't know what he was thinking. When you sit there and say, Do you want to explore this?" And he's just nodding his head, and it's just like, "Okay, I'm gonna take you at your word. You go out there and explore yourself a little bit." And all of a sudden, he just. But like again, I'm speaking as a male. Unfortunately, that's the kind of reaction I see all too often. I mean, yes, it comes across as generalization, and I'm sorry for that, but I don't know, man. Males, men, we're sort of slow, Allie. We're sort of slow. We sort of don't get it. So thank God for someone like yourself who can come in there and explain a man's feelings and try to. I guess what I'm saying is try to open their awareness to there are other possibilities.
Yeah,
Um,
well, it's again that comfort with that ability to be uncomfortable, right? We have a patriarchal society that everyone suffers in, including men, and that is the belief that you can't have feelings, and if you do, you certainly can't express them, and you certainly can't understand them. They just need to go away. That's not real. That's not a life well lived. You're an emotional creature. You have programming. You have stories that are influencing the decisions that you make. Understanding those things is powerful. Strength comes from being able to be with those parts of yourself that are very uncomfortable. And yeah, and I see a couple questions. Yes, I'm a relationship coach and I work from an expansive relationship model. So that means I help people in all relationship dynamics, closed, open, monogamous, non-monogamous, to build better, more mutually fulfilling relationships that last ideally a lifetime.
yeah. It says adults can do whatever they want, and if you want an open relationship, I'm all for it. But that's not what I want. Oh, of course, of course, any adult can do that, but it has to be a mutual decision. One can't want it, and the other one cannot. It won't work. I mean, if you're sitting there saying, I want an open relationship," and your partner's going like, "Yeah, that's not for me," then you're gonna
Yeah,
then only have one other, and then you either. I guess if the one side feels really strongly about it, both sides feel really strongly about it, well, then they're gonna be seeing you again because, trying to save the divorce, right?
there are you do not have to want the same thing in any relationship dynamic. You can have different desires and different needs. It's not tit for tat. Again, that's that us them very binary, mentality. It's what is the relationship dynamic that serves everyone involved in it. So I have certainly worked with people where one partner um, is non-monogamous. Non-monogamy is also not just a lifestyle choice. It can be an orientation. For example, my relationship orientation is non-monogamous. I also, there's sexual orientation, there's relationship orientation. Mine is non-monogamous. I love fully when I am in open dynamics. And I use terms like expansive dynamics because whether you have a monogamous relationship or a non-monogamous relationship, they should be open with each other. You should be
Yeah.
open communication, effective in your communication. All of these tools and skills that people come to me to learn or get better at are applicable in whatever relationship dynamic. I coach from an expansive relationship dynamic, but it is applicable for all relationship dynamics.
Right. Uh, let's see. Steven says that he'd rather stay single. Yeah, yeah, a lot of friends relationships, they fight. Yeah, it happens in any relationship. Not every relationship is 100% golden. There's, that's what makes the relationship stronger too, is overcoming tough problems.
Yeah.
I know about that.
Yeah. Again, back to like I was saying about like ownership versus partnership, we forget that any relationship we're in, business, professional, it's partnership in whatever thing is we're working on together, whether it's a life that we're building, a family that we're building, a business that we're building, it's a partnership. Restrictions, um, controlling other people's behavior, that's ownership. Partnership can't flourish in that. Boundaries are how we know what we're, boundaries are really like the edges of our comfort zone, is a great way to think about it. And they're not walls. They're not here to keep us away from anything. And they're not something to put over anyone else. That's when it becomes controlling behavior. Like the difference between my boundary is the kinds of clothes I am comfortable wearing in public versus telling my partner how they should dress in public because of my comfort level. That's a controlling behavior. So having those boundaries in relationship, creating a relationship that is a safe space to be uncomfortable in, allows you to push those boundaries safely so that you can grow. Because without pushing those boundaries, again, we're not growing. Without being uncomfortable slightly for most of the time, we're not growing. Having the capacity for that discomfort, again, is probably the most valuable skill that you could ever cultivate. And I don't just mean in your romantic or love or sex relationships. I mean, it impacts your business. It's going to impact your family, your health, everything.
Um, as a counselor, as a as a counselor, how do you there's two questions here. How do you when someone comes in there and that dynamic is shifting, the original twosome is now, the couple is now having their the third. How do you handle when one person says that they are shifting away from the first person they were with? How do you handle the dynamic that the love has shifted from one to the other? I mean, I'm sure that has happened. And how do you get that back into balance to maintain and to stay the relationship?
Hi, Lord Gary.
Oh,
When you say shifting the love, again, it's the terminology sounds like finite, like, oh, I'm loving this person more, therefore there's less love, which is not the case. If the relationship they have with one partner has shifted, it's not necessarily because of relationship with another person. Relationships and people shift, we grow, we change. Staying in communication about that as it's happening is important. So I would need to understand, what changes have occurred recently within that relationship that is shifting. There's so much more context I would need to understand in that. If they're in language of, this partner is more, better, whatever, stuff like that, then we need to look at what their needs actually are, and to see if the relationship structure that they're building with the partner in question is ideal, or if that needs to be adjusted to make room for more fulfillment with that other partner.
I guess the other question I have, and probably a bigger question too, is how do you handle it? How do you explain this if you have children? How do you explain to your children about the dynamic of the new relationship?
Well, age appropriate, like you would with any relationship dynamic, even monogamy. You introduce the people that are important to you as the people that are important to you. It's a benefit that you can have in a, poly family or a non-monogamous family structure is you have more support. It's not just you or just you and your partner. You have a community in a sense that can help, raise children together, that can alleviate some of the burden. This is actually our human history. We are a communal species. Monogamy is fairly recent, dating back. There's a couple different theories. The main one, right, was really seeing it come about during when we really discovered agriculture, and it has to do with land ownership and stewardship of the land, things like that. And I mean, if you look at a marriage contract as they stand now, it's like property ownership and mergers and acquisitions. It has nothing to do with romance, love, sex, anything like
Right.
that. That's why I create what I call relationship agreements with my clients. That is the document that actually is the relationship framework that you're under and the agreements that you have together. So yeah, I'm so sorry. So children. So yeah, I mean, I have a whole module on co-parenting and parenting in a non-monogamous dynamic in my course, E&M 101. It's like my foundational course, all the ins and outs and everything you need to know about what that can look like. Because it can look like any other element of your relationship, however you want to build it. These are agreements that we make with our partners. The freedom that you have when you understand that love is expansive, that relationship is expansive, is I can want to live with someone because we cohabitate well, we share responsibilities well, we have the same kind of lifestyle, kind of, taste in interiors, whatever the reasons are. But they're not necessarily my primary partner. And I can have a primary partner who I'm really enjoying building life with, but I don't want kids. But maybe they do. And they have a partner who wants kids. Fantastic. I don't have to have that. That's not something I'm interested in. So when you understand that it's not this zero-sum game, that relationships are a whole that we build with a bunch of different ingredients, being a parent is one of them, then you understand the freedom that you have to really build that to the specifications of how you want to do it.
Mm.
Does that
Um,
answer your question? I'm happy to
no,
talk to it more.
I totally get it. I totally get it. Um, as far as let's talk a little bit about the passport to pleasure. Now you do counseling. You do if a couple or a polyamorous relationship want how do you say it? Polyamorous is it's just
Different
if
terminology.
it's
You'll hear polyamorous couple, or polycule is a word that's used in the community, and that it can be any number of people. They're all in a relationship together. They're not all necessarily dating. I mean, again, this is kind of what my course goes into, all the terminology to really understand it. It's not that scary. I promise you. When you have language for something, it makes it a lot easier. But when it's this
right.
thing that you don't know and it's so new and then I'm going to run away, then yeah, of course, it's intimidating. But that's why I created this course. It's not that crazy. It's just information like you would learn anything. So polycule or polyamorous couple, another term that I've seen as well.
So if the polycule couple reaches out to you and say, like we want some extensive help. You mentioned some of the services that Passport to Pleasure offers. So talk to us about some of those services and your role in it. I know you mentioned that you will have one-on-one, like or you have Echo. I think you call it luxury resorts where people can get away from everything, and you're there with them and talking with them and walking them through. Um, what else, what are the services that Passports of Pleasure offers any couple, including those people who might be into exploring the lifestyle that maybe they have dipped their toe into the water a little bit, but they're not really sure. So how do you help them? How do you help them put their whole foot in the water?
So Passport to Pleasure is at its core an educational platform. So through passporttopleasure.com, and it's the number 2, passporttopleasure.com, I offer courses like ENM 101, Exploring Healthy Non-Monogamy, which I mentioned. It's my foundational course that provides you all the basic, vocabulary, understanding all the relationship dynamics available, learning how to understand your needs, communication schools. You really dial in on what your ideal relationship structure is, and then you create, if you're partnered, you create relationship agreement with your partner in which you can explore that. It's a primer, and really you want to build out from that with working with me. Eventually, I will also have other coaches that I'm training right now through my coaching framework, which is called the Invested Relationship Blueprint. And it is a coaching framework. It's relationship coaching, just like you would, except that it comes from an expansive relationship model. So whereas most couples therapy, most couples counseling, couples coaching comes from what's called a mononormative perspective. And that means the socially reported viewpoint that monogamy is somehow healthier or more natural than non-monogamy, which is not the case. So I coach from the understanding that we're having a conversation about relationship dynamics as a whole. It's not either or. It's not non-monogamy or monogamy. It's all relationship dynamics and finding out what's right for you. So ENM 101 is a great place to start working with me through that 4 phases of the blueprint, which is inventory, design, build, and maintain, because I want you to have a relationship structure that you can maintain for your entire life. That's my goal. I don't just stop when you meet a partner, or stop when you figure out what relationship dynamic. I want to make sure that you have got a framework that works for you for life. That's my mission. And then I will be launching the retreats that you mentioned right now. Initially it'll be smaller, maybe no more than like 15 couples at a time. And again, from an educational viewpoint. So they'll be at eco luxury retreats all around the world in these very special locations, but they are very curated. They are educational. They are going to be filled with workshops, hand experiences, really letting people drop into this lifestyle and creating a safe container within which they can dip a toe in if they want to, with people that they've been getting to know over the last 4 days at the retreat. But right now it's the coaching and the courses.
Um, it's it's a swinging lifestyle. Is that making a comeback, or is that deader than a doornail?
Well, swinging or swapping is another word you'll hear that falls under the non-monogamy umbrella. There are certainly plenty of people swinging. There are very different personalities for different parties that you can go to. Like a swingers party is very different than like a poly play party, for example, or a kink BDSM party. So each, there's different subcultures within based on what people are interested in, what dynamics work for them. But I wouldn't say it's going anywhere.
Let's see. Gary has a question about the actress part of you. He wants to know if you're going to be doing he wants to know if you are going to be doing any new movies. That's a good question too. I was going to get to that. Are you going to also be going back to becoming a working actress? I mean, or have you stopped? Or how is that going to be? How is that going to play into the business? Or are you just going to strictly do passport to pleasure?
Well, I don't strictly do anything. I'm a creative individual, so I always have a few.
I was going to say you must be absolutely crazy busy with the business. I'm sure people are reaching out to you every day on a daily basis saying help. And
incredible. Yeah, it's for me right now. The phase with Passport to Pleasure takes up a much more significant amount of my focus because again, I'm in, what are we now, April? So I just started the 4th month of this thing being live. So very much in growth phase. The idea being to build this business in a scalable way that I can step away, and shoot a film or something like that, and it's still running, but that's not a month. So that will eventually be it. And then of course I will always run my retreats and things like that. Those are the higher touch point items that I always wanted because I love so much. And being able to work with people is my favorite thing. But I still have wonderful managers that represent me as a screenwriter and an actor. I have stepped my focus away. Just the industry has been in so much turmoil, and I work in the indie space, and it's just it was not serving me to focus all of my attention on that the way that I've been. And so really, again, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, the recognition that it's not a linear path, that what I'm doing now is actually serving a lot of my other goals as well, like shopping around a few television shows that are related to Passport to Pleasure, for example. And I work in this space. So I'm also writing my first feature. So that'll be a new exploration. But yeah, I mean,
it's exciting. I mean, it's been sitting on the outside looking in, without sounding too weird about it, but sitting outside watching you work and get into business, and I've been watching, and it's really cool to see. I'm just like it's very interesting. It's very interesting to watch. Do you think our society is ready for this to be talked about openly and in public? Do you see resistance to it? Do people? Yeah.
Oh, I love your trolls. They give me so much engagement. I really appreciate.
Oh, do you get trolled a lot?
Yeah, I've had a few, videos go viral, things like that. It doesn't worry me. I have again, when you have frameworks for things, it's amazing how powerful that can make things that used to throw you off completely. Because I used to get really hurt. I mean, and I'm not impervious. It doesn't feel good. Problems and things like that. It doesn't feel good. It hurts my feelings, but it doesn't like shift anything dramatically in my life because I have a very simple measurement for whose opinion matters to me.
Right.
Do they have more experience and knowledge in the thing that they're critiquing me on than I do? Not, why the fuck do I care what they think?
Exactly. How are you finding your other coaches? I mean, it's just how do you recruit them? Do you go to universities? I mean, to me,
it's a slow selective process. I am like that. I'm a leader and community organizer in the sex positive community in LA, and have been so for over 8 years. So I have a lot of people who are already in this space, and already in this language and in this lifestyle. So pulling from that and working with people who understand coaching frameworks and understand what that relationship is when you're working with especially couples, because it is specialty. A lot of people who do the work that I do work mostly with individuals. My preference, my specialty, I guess, is working with couples. I definitely do work with individuals as well, and triads and polycules. But I do often find myself working with couples that are looking to open up. That's a sweet spot. And yeah, I mean, it's a process, and it's really it's a process. I don't have like a
No,
big answer
no, I get it.
right now, if that's what you're asking.
What do you do for what do individuals come to you for counseling as well? Like they come to you and they I can't seem to get a relationship off the ground to save my life. What do I do? How do I do that? Or is it strictly do you work strictly with just couples or
It's
triad?
both.
That word.
It's both. Like I said, the bulk of my clientele is, I would say, is couples, but I absolutely work with individuals and try and everything as well. Because even if you're already partnered, our society has this expectation of like partnership as the ultimate goal. And there's a bit of a trope of like, if you can't love yourself, no one can love you. But that's real. If you're not practicing these relationship skills with yourself, you don't know what you want, you don't know how to self-soothe, you don't know, all of those things. You have no business bringing that out into relationship with another person. That isn't to say that there's a done point. Ding, you're good now. You don't have to grow anymore. But there's a stability point. And I think a big marker of that is, can you be uncomfortable? Like, if you're so desperate for partnership, what is that? Are you terrified of being alone? Why? What is it like to be with yourself? And let's look at that. Because even if you're partnered, you are ultimately your core partnership, your primary partner that will be with you your entire life, whether you like it or not, is you. You cannot divorce yourself. So really getting that dialed in, it's still integral to the work that I do, whether you're partnered or not.
Let's see. Go back to let's see. See, we got the movie question, and Stephen wants to know what type of films do you do? I said for the movie I saw, you're leading lady type for sure. Yeah, I would love to see that. I would love to see you. You'd be perfect in a good romantic movie. Oh yeah,
It's definitely
yeah,
my wheelhouse. If it's a
yeah.
rom, it better be rom-com. It's more my. I love the
You're
mess.
stunning. I mean, you're a beautiful woman. That's for sure. Yeah. That's if Steve wants to know that, that's for sure. Yep, leading lady type for sure. Um, I'm looking forward to seeing where Passport to Pleasure goes. I think it's going to explode. I think it's what we need in today's world. To tell you the truth, I think that people need to. I mean, I think I just see our society being squeezed like this,
Yeah.
more and more narrow. And I think it's time for us to flex that back and be open minded about what people do. As long as, like you said, as long as no one's getting you know, as long as no one's getting hurt enough to do anything drastic. I mean, and unfortunately, sometimes that does happen. But as long as people, realize that, hey, if it doesn't work out this time or whatever relationship you're in, whether it be a triad, I love that word. I have to use that if I can. Whether it be triad, polyamorous, if it's monogamous, non-monogamous, as long as if it does, if it works, awesome. If it doesn't, don't take it personal. Don't take it so personal that you strike out. Try to leave the other person as you first met them. Try to leave as friends if you can.
I coach people to have net positive relationships. Even if the relationship has an ultimate ending, ideally you're both leaving better off for having known each other. That's the
Yes.
ultimate goal. A relationship ending is not a failure. It's
No.
just a relationship changing. It's dynamic. What was I gonna say? Oh gosh. Yeah, that's why I use the term expansive, because even if you're monogamous, I hope your relationship is still an expansive relationship dynamic. Hopefully you're growing in that. Hopefully you're still curious, not only about yourselves and the world around you, but each other. So what I see a lot of times in couples is this, in non-monogamous couples as well, is this assumption like, oh, we've been together for so long. I know what you're going to say. Or my favorite is like, oh yeah, we finish each other's sentences. And I just go, isn't that called interrupting? You don't know what your partner is going to say. You have a good idea. There's a higher probability maybe, but it's only based in what's happened before. Ideally, you're both always growing and changing, so they could surprise you at any time. But if you don't leave the room for them to surprise you, I can guarantee they never will.
Right. Right.
Stay
Uh,
curious, friends.
yeah. If you can, I mean, definitely curiosity is definitely a strength here. So what's going on next with you? What's your next step as far as with Passport to Pleasure and you yourself? You said you're writing a screenplay and you're doing some script shopping. That's awesome. We hope that goes well. Love to see you back on the camera again soon. But
Thank you.
what's
Yeah, I
next
focus
for?
more on writing right now, but I'm, uh, as far as on camera, the couple of the unscripted shows I'm shopping related, Passport to Pleasure would have me in a hosting position as well. But
Okay.
yeah, I mean, as a writer, I generally write television. This is my first feature. Um, I'm annoyed that I had the idea and my managers liked it, so I have to write it now. But no, I joke. Great. Again, staying curious, staying uncomfortable. I'm certainly uncomfortable. Haven't written a feature before. It's a process. But now I'm telling you, and you have it recorded, so you can hold me accountable. Great. Blech. This is great. But what's next? I mean, I have great, other amazing podcast hosts who've invited me to chat with them about this. Whatchamacallit, I am relaunching. I think I mentioned my coaching framework initially was called the Non-Monogamy Blueprint. But what I was finding is that unfortunately it was deterring more people than it was attracting, and including people that I can help. I don't coach people to become non-monogamous. That's not what I do. Again, I coach you to understand the relationship dynamic that serves you best, so it can
Do you feel?
last as long as possible. So
Do you feel? Do you
shifting it
feel?
to what?
Do you feel people are scared of that term non-monogamy? Are people scared of that?
Right.
Of that term?
People are either all about it or get me out of here. It's one or the other. So shifting the terminology to the invested relationship blueprint, because I work with people who are invested in their relationships, who understand the impact and the value of investing in themselves and their relationships. If you don't understand, I can't help you, because it does take effort. Whatever relationship dynamic we discovered is best for you, it's going to take some work on your part, because
Yeah.
now you're the expert in what doesn't work, because everything you've been doing is what got you here, which is working with me, who is the expert in what's possible. So if you're not willing to invest in that process, and that means time, money, effort, being uncomfortable, then I can't work with you because I can't help you. But if you're someone who understands the value and the impact of investing in that, of investing in your relationships, then I'm here for it. This is my shit. Let's go.
And on that note, our time has been hit. And I want to thank our time is. I want to thank you, Allie, for coming out and talking with us. Um, I actually managed to pull this off without looking like a fool. I was so nervous about this one because I was like, I have no idea, and or my viewpoint sort of dated. I think I'm pretty open minded. I've always been around open minded people.
We're in
So
relationship right now, and I am interrupting you because we're in relationship. So I'm responsible for this relationship that we're creating together. You will not look like a fool with me because I value the relationship that we're creating right now. You
I
looking
value
like
that too. I
that
value that too, Allie. Um, I'm very grateful for that. I'm thankful for your patience and for your kindness and your generosity throughout the year. I mean, you've always been. Anytime I've ever reached out and talked to you, you've always answered right back. And I so much respect for you for that. So much kindness. Thank you so much.
appreciate that. Thank you. Persistence pays off.
Yes, yes. If there's one thing I am, is persistent. Um, I want to thank the chat for coming out tonight and hanging out with us. Of course, this will be on replay, which I'll be floating out there and watching this over and over. This is one of my fun. This was fun. This was a lot of fun. I do hope you'll come
Yeah.
back. I, I do hope you'll come back and hang out with us again and talk and educate us. I'm grateful for that. I always like learning something new, and thank you for sharing that with us. Tomorrow night we will be back here at 8 o'clock with director and actor. I want to say his name right because if I don't, I always get the names. Austin Gallant. Austin Gallant will be here tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, and we will be talking with him about his new film. And yeah, that'll be here 8 o'clock. And then Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time, we're back with our watch parties with film creators, and we will be here with Joe Lujan, and we'll be watching and discussing the film Rust 3 with him and some castmates, and that will be Friday night. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for coming out. We will talk to you soon. Allie, stay right where you're at for 1 minute. And to the chat, thank you for coming out. We will see you tomorrow night.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your questions.